Hello there, and welcome to this week's edition of Creative Critique. Now, the newest released theatrically released film that I've been to see this week is the newest film from American director Jeremy Saulnier, and that film is Green Room. Now, I have seen his previous work, Blue Ruin, in which he collaborated with actor Macon Blair, and he also makes an appearance in this film also. He's a frequent collaborator, the actor. He's not one of the main leads in the film, but he's quite a prominent support character in the film. Now, the film Green Room focuses effectively upon indie band. I put well, not an indie band. It's not at all an indie band, is it? It's a proper American punk band, and their members. The name of the band is the Ain't Rights, and their members include the likes of Anton Yelchin, Alia Shawkat, Joe Cole, and Callum Turner, and Patrick Stewart. Patrick Stewart turns up later. He's not in the band, although that would be awesome. So, like I say, yeah, Joe Cole, Callum Turner, Alia Shawkat, and Anton Yelchin are members of this band. They are on a bit of a tour, a mini tour of the US, doing bumming gigs around, effectively just trying to get from place to place, make a little bit of money, if they can play a bit of music, so on and so forth. It looks like their tour's about to end when the guy who at the previous venue who says, "Oh, I can get you another gig somewhere else," so they obviously take up the offer for a decent amount of money for them. But what it turns out to be is it's a place of a particular club, and it appears to be a club of extreme neo-Nazism. So they do the gig. Some of it's quite good for them, and some of it's quite intimidating. But they've done the gig. They get paid. What happens? They come across the green room where they had prepared previously, and then have gone back to, and there is a dead body in there with a couple of individuals in there. Then problems start to arise. So that's your general setup of the film. What obviously effectively happens then is it's them, not versus the neo-Nazis, but effectively them trying to get out of this situation. As I just previously mentioned before, Patrick Stewart, he is the gang leader of this bunch of neo-Nazis. What has effectively occurred is that one of the members has killed a girl there who was planning possibly to leave him or leave that situation, and her friend is in the room also trapped there. So what effectively happens is they get locked in the room, and it's a game of cat and mouse of them trying to get away out of this situation. Now, as I previously said about Jeremy Saulnier, I've seen his previous film Blue Ruin, about an individual who, for all good intentions, is in a bad situation, if only trying to do things in his own mind that is right. Now, this kind of follows similar sort of themes in terms of it's a bunch of it appear decent people in an unfortunate situation, having to do terrible things. And effectively how the film plays out is it's quite a brutal film, there's no doubt about it. It's very, very brutal in terms of the violence that goes in the film. We were actually warned, I will just state from the start that we were warned before going into seeing the film, after saying which film we were obviously paying and going in to see. He said the cinema attendant effectively said, "Oh, I'll just warn you now that apparently people have been walking out of this film." And I was a bit, "Oh, really?" Because it's not the sort of thing I usually get warned about when going. Now, I've seen some violent films in cinema, some extremely violent films, and I've never been warned of what's going on in them. So that was interesting to know that he actually thought it was worthy of warning as of the possible offence and violence, maybe. There is extreme stuff in this film, there's no doubt about it. There's machetes and shotguns and box openers. Yes. Now, this is not a film for the faint-hearted, therefore, is it? Now, yes, if this is not going to be your cup of tea, any slight hint of that sort of violence is going to put you off straight away. Now, I am quite a hardened film goer, and therefore quite a hardened horror thriller film watcher. This film is certainly in the horror thriller category, purely on the pure amount of violence and gore that's going on in the films. Apparently, what the director wanted to do effectively in with this film was to actually bring a sense of realization to violence. So he's certainly doing it. There are some scenes that will stick with you after you've left the cinema, and I said the box cutter or the box opener bit. Whew, mainly because the effects are so fantastically done. There's no CGI practically, I believe, in the film. It's all practical, gory effects, which is wonderful to see, being such a fan of that sort of style of filmmaking. So, yeah. Now, is it any good? I've described what goes on in the film and possible aspects that may not be liked, but I personally have a problem by it. I think they were really, really well utilised, that sort of brutal violence aspect. Because let's face it, cinema does certainly tend to gloss over a lot of violence that's going on in films, and this is effectively an antidote to that sort of thing. And to think, bloody hell, this is something that is awful and real. So I like that sort of realism of it. I like the actual theme of the actual band and a punk band. It gave it the feel of the film such a different edge, that punk sort of angle, if you will. So I like that aspect of the film, and let's go on to Patrick Stewart, because let's face it, it is certainly not an out of the blue piece of casting, but someone said, oh, we need to hire somebody to play a neo-Nazi gang leader. You don't go, oh, I'll just get Patrick Stewart, do you? So I like the sort of counter casting there, if you will, because it's your perceptions of an individual are completely changed, and there's certainly things about his performance I really, really like. I don't think his performance absolutely fantastically works, but I thought it was a great piece of counter casting, because if you're going with somebody like, I don't know, the most obvious sort of thing to maybe for being a British villain or something is maybe something like Ray Winston. Oh, let's get Ray Winston. Straight away, you're going off with a different feel and a different angle and a different type of acting. So, kudos, you know what I mean, to the people on the casting floor. And I really like the casting. Like I say, Anton Yelchin and Alia Shawkat are particular standouts, and Imogen Poots is kind of that classic damsel in distress, but only with a box cutter and various weapons. Now, it doesn't all work. I did like the brutality of the film, but there's a nice sense of tension building, and there's certainly a feel of Assault in Precinct. This is a film that's clearly took influence from the likes of sort of low budget horror films previously. So he's paying homage in many aspects to these films, and I think it's a decent shout out of a film. Like I say, it doesn't all work. I love the effects. I thought the performance was pretty decent. I like the feel and the brutality of the film. So yeah, those are the really positives of things I really like about it. Like I say, the practical effects were fantastic, and I keep going on about them, but I suppose I shouldn't really be, because there's other stuff about it to love, but there's just something that lingers with you after you've left the cinema, so therefore that's one of the best aspects of the film, isn't it? It's certainly, like I say, it's going to cater to a particular audience. If you like horror films, it'll be more in your area of enjoyment than a traditional film goer, if you will. So yeah. Green Room. Continuing Jeremy Saulnier's quite brutal and subgenre of filmmaking in the subgenre area. So yeah, decent stuff. It's an interesting ending, I must say, as well. The way how that final decision is sort of played out with particular characters. I won't say, of course, regarding what it is, but it's certainly different to what you probably would normally get from it and see. And there's absolute there's an extremely wry humour going on in film that will not be to everyone's taste. I found a little bits of it funny, and bits I thought, yeah, I know where this is going a little bit. So it didn't completely sell me on, I don't know where this is going to go, but the ending certainly got through me a little bit. So there we go, yeah. Green Room, decent watch, and certainly one for horror and extreme thriller watchers. There we go. So my classic film of the week now is certainly, to say it's a classic film is not being generous, but a lot of people will go, what are you on about? The film in question that I've watched this week is a film sort of also in the same sort of genre of thriller, horror filmmaking, low budget particularly as well. And the film is Neil Marshall's 2002 film, Dog Soldiers. And for those that do not know about the film, effectively it sets up a couple of characters in particular. You have Kevin McKidd's character, who is a member of a troop led by Sean Pertwee's captain, who are in the Scottish Highlands doing a training op, effectively, against some SAS individuals. Only they come across the SAS individuals only in pieces. Something has ripped these individuals to pieces, and it's them. They suddenly discover the character Liam Cunningham, who was effectively head of this SAS. Well, no, he wasn't doing to do the SAS, was he? I don't think. But head of another group of Marines or soldiers or something like that. If I only had the information, if I had just watched it, but I didn't. I did. So you got some prominent British character actors going on there, and they effectively come across a female character called Emma Cleesby, played by Emma Cleesby, and it's them effectively retreating to this house in the Scottish Highlands where something is completely amiss and something is out to get them. And let's face it, by the name of the title of the film, Dog Soldiers, it is a werewolf film, and yes, that's right, it's a low-budget British werewolf film. It has all the makings of all the sounds of a quite schlocky and terrible film, and now, in certain aspects, some of it is. The dialogue, in certain aspects, is absolutely predictable and absolutely uninspiring, it's fair to say. But there's certain bits that are very funny, character interactions, and there's also just some absolute... Neil Marshall gets just about the comedic horror tone right, and which is, considering that is always really, really hard to get right, you've got to give him credit, because, like I say, the balance between horror and comedy is so... If you go too far one way, the comedy is completely lost, and once again, and vice versa. You go too much toward the complete horrific style or feel of the film is gone as well, because you're just focusing more on the comedy. So it's a nice blending of balance, blending of those two genres. Liam Cunningham and particularly Sean Pertwee are on what's going to be called absolutely hammy form. And they chew up every piece of scenery that they're in. And there's some nice twist in there, actually, as well, as I said previously with how it ends towards the end. Which, if you've not seen the film before, when I first saw the film, I didn't see coming. Really good. And let's just me go, after having previously mentioned in my Green Room review that the practical effects of that film were extremely good. This is really what makes the film stand out more than anything, in particular in the early 2000s, where you had things like Underworld and Underworld films, where it was completely CGI transformations. I think it wasn't it. You're not seeing a transformation in this film too much. You are little bits, but not quite as much as you would think you would. Not in the sort of American Werewolf in London sort of thing. But you're seeing the effects of the werewolves themselves, and they are some imposing figures and some imposing creature effects, and they are fantastic. They remind me partly in part of how the aliens were used in Aliens, in terms of like you got like dancers to actually effectively bounce off the walls, and be choreographed into such a way that's so kind of not human but animal. And that is sort of in play again, because these are effectively giant werewolves. They were put on stilts, effectively, the effects, with some fantastic facial effects and imposing figures. The way it's edited is great as well. And it's, like I said previously, the film, in terms of Neil Marshall's direction, is completely paying homage, and I'm sure he'd be willing to admit the similarities between films, particularly the way the film sets up, as I just said at the beginning of this review. It is so Predator, isn't it? A group comes across a situation that is beyond their control and beyond their means. That is completely Predator, and the scenes in the film in particular that remind you so much of particular scenes of Aliens, like I just said previously, with the effects, but also just how certain scenes play out, and also in regard to, and come on, Evil Dead. It is completely Evil Dead. It's like Evil Dead meets Predator, effectively. I know it's a terrible, easy way of reviewing something, but it is. And particularly the way the camera lurks outside the house, obviously, like it's like something's watching them. It's brilliantly done. Now, like I said, there's stuff in it that is very, very schlocky. There's no doubt. Some of the characters could leave a bit to be desired. Dialogue is not great all the time, it's fair to say, but what it has going for him is that horror comedy angle, and the way it plays homage to those genres that it loves. It's greatly appreciative of the genre it's in, and it's made with great love for that genre, and that's probably why I really do like it. And not gloss over the problems of it, but I'm willing to forgive the film for it. So Neil Marshall went on to make effectively one of my favourite horror films in The Descent, and this was kind of him just honing his craft, really, wasn't it? He is great at making those low-budget action horrors with a wry sort of angle, if you will. It's really entertaining, and you're not bored watching this film at all. And once again, the gore is just immense on screen, and it's really enjoyable to watch for horror fans again. So both these films, really, this is what you need to watch if you're a horror fan, really. It's what it's all about, isn't it? But it's not done in just pure gore form. It's done with a bit of style and a bit of pizzazz and a bit of, we know what we're doing. We know what the audience wants. So there we go, yeah. Dog Soldiers is my classic film of the week. Not a lot of people will agree with that sort of status, and even I'm sort of like, is it a classic film? So even I'm debating whether it is or not. But that is my classic film of the week. And my theatrically released film of the week was the film Green Room from Jeremy Saulnier. Both films, like I say, in the genre, in their own sort of little nice sub-genres, and really entertaining watches. So there we go. Those are my films of the week. I hope, I thank you for watching if you have. I do hope you subscribe to me, and if you do, I do hope to see and speak to you again very soon. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.